My name is Nicholas. I am an evangelist at Zoho, and today we're going to be talking about how we can optimize hybrid work with an integrated suite of products like Zoho Workplace. Now, sure, today's topic is not an entirely new concept, nor is it a new notion. I'm pretty sure some of us would have already been in the mode of working hybridly or remotely. So that itself said, we're definitely going to be discussing on how we can actually improve and really level up your hybrid working game, right? So that is to say, I will give an idea of how to think about Zoho Workplace, how to use them for work, to create transparency of tasks, to drive visibility of tasks, to get open communication across in your organization, and all that sort of great stuff. That being said, we will also show you how to enhance workplace usage when you integrate that across other Zoho tools and services as well. So those are some of the bonus slides that you'll get to see today. So to get the discussion started, let's talk a little bit about how traditionally work used to be like, right? So this is a traditional work setup, complete monotony, which is why I chose this image. And we can sort of infer back then that work used to have lesser visibility, especially amongst your colleagues. You have lesser visibility of the tasks they're doing. The conversations that you're supposed to have probably don't always happen when they need to. They're either happening during lunch or during pantries or even after work itself. So back then, work was very fragmented. But things have changed, and here is what we call the new seed of innovation. And in fact, this is how modern workplaces of today actually looks like. So definitely more visibility today. This look an awful lot like a co-working space if it's something that you're familiar with. I personally am a big fan of that. But that itself is to say that today we don't need really a defined location to be at in order to be truly efficient and productive at what we do, all right, in our work. So work can also even happen in places where we least expect it to, where something small becomes something much larger. What was once arranged now is actually more spontaneous. So we're expecting more spontaneity in terms of your work, right? How can we run meetings on the fly? How can we sort of create conversations and create new tasks and build continuity of tasks as well? So these are some of the things that we are looking out for in today's work context. Now, it used to be the case we were told what to do at work, and the roles of manager has pretty much, pivot towards that of a mentor role. So again, back then the keyword was actually micromanagement. Now these days we're moving towards collaboration. Don't get me wrong, we still want our managers to be there, but to really get the politics out of the way, to help us unchoke some of the choke points, but never really to intervene with our creative inputs and outputs, right? So as much as work has changed, the role has changed as well. Of course, the idea of work being, a 9 to 6 sort of a thing and working strictly behind the desk has practically vanished. So again, we get to work pretty much anywhere we want to work, anyhow we want to work, and whenever we want to work. So again, as employees ourselves, we also have more autonomy of, again, how we want to get work done and how we want to collaborate as well. So the idea is not where we get work done. Okay, it's about how we get work done. And that, of course, requires us to have a first digital mindset. And when we talk about digital mindset, it's about how are we creating that digital environment where we're able to nest our documentations, our conversations, our team activities, all under one roof to create that single source of truth that we can refer to. How can we create transparency, for your employees as well, right? So this is the larger question for the day. What makes a successful digital workplace? All right, this is something I want us to ask ourselves. It could be technology. Now, maybe it's your people, maybe it's your processes, or even culture itself, or maybe it's just a combination of all of this, right? So this is the question that we should ask ourselves. What makes a successful digital workplace then? And to begin with, we have to look at how we can improve the overall experiences of your employees. And by that, we mean digital experiences. Now, obviously, we know the importance of KPI these days, but as decision makers, as managers, we want to be able to sort of equip our employees and colleagues with the right tools to, again, be transparent with what they do, to drive visibility of tasks across. Those are the things that we should be looking out for. Now, for example, if we are a support agent, right? We want to be able to perform our job at the highest level. Again, when we talk about having a great employees experience in digital sense, we have to be able to drive context across. And again, if we put it in layman, that means we have to be able to drive some form of task relevancy. And as a support agent, do we have prerequisite information coming in from avenues like your sales, like your marketing? Again, these are things that are very important, right? Information that should be fed to you, perhaps like what's the history of past support like, what was the name or what is the name of the customers, or maybe what is the preferred language. So these are things that will be very important for me as a support agent to be able to provide and produce the best quality support for all my customers. So today we're going to be talking about unified workplace and how can we create a centralized repository where we can trade conversations with colleagues, where we can create project works, where we can share learning takeaways and hopefully be able to use that and create repeated success as well. And I'm going to give you a sneak peek of what we have, of course, under our suite of products. Now, again, if we take a look at this, we've got the mail suite here with some email apps. We've got integrated tasks and notes. We have something we call Stream here, which, by the way, is pointed towards a email draft sharing function that's built into the email process. Comes in really handy. I'll show you an example of that later on. Of course, we do have other documents builder, if you will. We're talking about file storages and the different types of documents like spreadsheets and presentations and word processing tools. And when you couple that with communication tools, you actually get to see how we can work, again, in a really contextual manner. It's, again, something that I will show you very quickly. So to help us understand a little bit better about the demo that we're about to show you, we're all going to come on as Zoho Estate. Now, take note, this is completely fictional. We are coming on as a real estate company that don't just do sales, but also do consultation. And that means there is a whole bunch of research. There's a whole bunch of market research, communication involved in this process to help our client, MSPH Group, create a hotel, to build a hotel called Face Destination. Now, again, we're going to deconstruct this fictional use case. We will see how Workplace tool, alongside other Zoho services, can come in to power the different processes. Okay. So there are three main profiles to look at: Nicholas, main consultant; Mayumi, the assistant; and then finally we have Noel, who is the customer. And the first phase here is project conception. So essentially, this is one of the most critical phase, right? We're talking about developing, the overall resort and hotel project objective, establishing brand identity, and looking into, the assembly of your hotel development team, right? If there are missing pieces and expertise, perhaps you want to do like hiring on an as-needed basis or ad hoc basis. So those are the things to really, take a look at. Those are the permutations that we have to consider at this phase. So again, as I sort of mentioned, ton of meeting and communication will actually takes place at this very phase. And speaking about communication, let's talk a little bit about email. Okay, so first thing first, first point of contact with Noel as a prospect is always the email. Again, what we're seeing here is a very standard email view. We've got, again, integrated calendars, tasks, and all these different tools by the side. We've got some plugins and widgets that you see on the right. It will come in very handy later on. And again, this is a very streamlined inbox view of Zoho Mail. So for a little bit of context, we actually met Noel at a trade show called Smart City, Smart Building. She was thoroughly impressed with the types of projects that we were able to put out there. So she got in contact with us, which we opened the mail and we asked her out for a coffee. So it's at this stage where we sort of realized and understood that Noel is actually looking to hear a little bit more about a feasibility study pitch. Now, what is a feasibility study? So essentially, that study is, it makes up of a whole bunch of market research. You are doing a lot of research online. You're doing a lot of research on the ground. You're packing that into a pitch and presentation deck and sort of to communicate that to the client on the viability of the project, whether the project is going to be a success, whether it's profitable. So these are things to actually include as part of the presentation. So we know that's clear. Now we're going to head back to the office and just sort of thank Noel for her time here. Now, because Noel is not someone who is, a brand new raw lead, right? She's someone whom we have met at trade shows. We have done some follow-ups. So coming back to the email view, again, I'm just sort of opening up my CRM widget here from my email. And what you see here is all this information and content that sits in your current email content gets populated within that widget. So you can also manually go down the list to fill out more information, things like your lead sources, things like your customer name, phone numbers. And once you're done with those, click save. What happens is, bam, it goes right into the CRM, right? So this creates a whole new record altogether, and it automatically populates all this information that you were able to gather from the previous email phase. Again, this is what we mean by working within context, building on activities, and sort of creating continuity of tasks. So it's definitely way more streamlined, isn't it? Right? So coming back to the email view, again, we're gonna just go ahead and just send and arrange for a feasibility study pitch date. Now, because it's an important mail, we want to gather the inputs of team members as well. So rather than sending the email and then maybe spotting an error, recalling it, editing it again, and sending it out all over again, that's a lot of ding-dong back and forth. Not ideal, not fun to deal with. So we're going to use the share draft function here called streams. We're going to stream this email to our colleagues Vic and Mayumi, who then says at this point of time in the study, do we need to include product mix and hotel designs, which are fairly important inputs. So we're going to go in and redraft the content, hit send. Okay, but now that we've shared this draft, what we're going to do, again, if we think about it, email is an asynchronous form of communication, right? And it's going to sit in your inbox for the longest time until the recipient goes in and check things out. So what we want to do is inform the team that we have already highlighted and stream an email over. So I'm going to utilize the integration of Zoho Click here, which is a team messenger tool that we use to run one-to-one conversation and organization level sort of announcements and conversation. So it's a tool for that. We're going to use this integration and just continue on this conversation and this discussion on MSPH group. Now, done us a favor, if you take a look at this chat channel, again, essentially I'm informing my colleagues saying that I've shared the email. Please take a look at that. So like any other Zoho services, we are able to actually access click services from the bottom left. And this is actually a standardized view that you see across all Zoho tools. All right. So fast track, let's talk about preparing feasibility study. Again, you know the existence and the reason of why feasibility study is important. So let's just quickly move on and lock in a date. So Noelle here says she's okay to do the presentation on 16 August. Okay, so when we hover over that text in the email view, we have three options: create task, events, or reminder. I'm going to create a Zoom meeting task. I'm going to invite attendees. I'm going to also input the agenda. So these are all, by the way, editable. So you can always revisit this and make some changes later on. So once you lock that in, it's going to come into the integrated calendar view over here, and you're pretty much locking in that date and blocking out that date in that calendar view itself. Now, another great thing about our Zoho tool is that we have what we call a task board here. Now, this is a natively built-in board called task board. It's a work assistant. So essentially, when you get new documents created or shared across, taskbar is going to notify you on that. And if you have meetings, taskbar is going to also notify you on that. So again, there's no way you'll ever miss out on important client meeting. Now, what we also have here is ZR search. Now we're going to utilize ZR search here very quickly to search up, all these key results. And now with the example I've went with MSPH group, that is the customer's name. So essentially I'm unifying all my search result in one granular view. And it gives me a good idea of, what are several documents built and centered around MSPH group. What others? Several conversations we had with, perhaps the clients or about the clients, right? Now, if you're using Zoho Workplace, it's essentially going to fetch all these results across all the Workplace tools. Okay, now because I've integrated other tools as well, so naturally you will see me fetching results across things like people and connect, right, and things like this. So fast track a little, we want to quickly put together ideas and research, and that's going to be in form of a presentation. And what we have here is Zoho Show. It's a presentation deck builder. So again, this is very standard presentation deck builder. You can put in really nice graphics, images, GIFs, videos, and get them reviewed with your teams. Okay, but beyond that is with feasibility study, what we also want to do is to bring in statistics and numbers and different charts, right, to make that pitch a little bit more interactive. So I'm using the integration that Zoho has with Zoho Analytics to actually bring in usable data that I want to show in my study to the client that sits in Zoho Analytics. And of course, the idea and the prerequisite is that we have to have usable data in analytics. Okay, so essentially what we're doing here is to pick the right workspace. So workspace is like an environment where we nest all these different charts and dashboards under. We're going to bring the report right into Zoho Show here. And it's completely interactive. So again, if you sort of hover your clicker over these different graphical components or visualization charts, you will see expanded hidden details and numbers that sits in analytics. So we are essentially looking at what is the total transacted price for this different hotel acquired by this different buyer. So these are the types of information and detailed information that we can bring out from analytics from Zoho Show. Okay, so take note, as we make the edit in analytics, it will show in real time in Zoho Show. And versus, you having to, put in new inputs in your spreadsheets, create a new chart and edit the chart again, and then download that and import that again. Why go through that many process? Okay, so everything can be done in a somewhat what we call a more smoother, way of working, right? Go into analytics, edit that, and that will show in Zoho Show. So you have to different repository updated. So I'm going to show you a live view of how things looks like. Go into Show, click Add-on. Again, as I mentioned, click the right workspace. Okay, now this only shows in presenter view. So we have to click play here. And as we allow this to load, okay, you're going to hover across some of these graphical components. Again, as we mentioned, you can uncheck some of the charts here. You can bring out more specificity in certain elements that can be done. It's not just about bar graphs and histograms, but you can also put in tabular charts as well. So you're creating different tables that makes your pictures more convincing. That is the value of this integration these days. Now, with feasibility study, we also want to assess what's on the ground. We want to look at, what is the traffic condition like, what is the environmental or perhaps even governmental restrictions on the ground. So all of this has to be relayed into the study, into the pitch deck. Okay, so we're going to whip out our mobile phone here, just go through several processes and take what's on the ground, put that into the presentation. And ta-da, there we have, right? Feasibility pitch is complete, and we fast forward, the big day arrive. We're going to have a call with Noelle finally and her team. Now, take note, we're going to receive this notification coming in from email saying that we have a meeting today. And when you go into that, you get to see all these details that sits inside this meeting setup. Okay. So we spent hours and weeks trying to put together these studies. It's finally coming to fruition. We're showing this in the pitch. What we're showing and looking at right now is a new feature in Zoom meeting. So we've got this virtual background going on. I've picked a library background. It's one of my favorite spots to be in. Now, besides that, is also picture-in-picture. So as you're switching tabs and windows and screen, that little video feed is following you throughout. So you, in a sense, know who is engaged, who is not. So again, it makes that online session, while we're all seated remote and distant away from one another, it's, in a sense, still very much engaging. Okay. So after the meeting with the client, we're going to regroup with Silker team to input, all the necessary important details to be able to do so, because Mayumi, the colleague here, sits in the Philippines. Now we have to know whether she's available for call. So to do so, there's some general indication here. What she can do is go in and check herself in remotely. She or he, Nicholas in this case, can even go into the details like enabling video feed. That should be a general indication saying that you are behind your desk and you're available for contact. So there are several ways to really make this call happen. Audio call, video call, and while we're on a call, we can screen share. Again, we're in the screen sharing mode. So going back into the CRM, if you own one, in this case, we have our customer details already in Zoho CRM. we're going to go ahead and input the commercial budget and the current interest level of Noel. Right, so these are things that we want to collaborate on and not miss out on important details like this. So we're working on things again in a very or perhaps continuous fashion. Now, once you have done cleaning up the data within the CRM, you've input all these details. With the 3 dotted icons here, what you can also do is to immediately, flush this record into the CRM channel, or rather, the click channel, which is a customer-facing chat. Maybe there's a sales-centric channel that you want to pump this to. You can. All you have to do is to pick the channel of your choice, input some personalized message, hit send, and it goes into the channel. It's really that simple. Okay, you get to see a really nice summary of all these different customer record, employee size, the phone numbers, right? The hotel industry that the customer belong to, and all that sort of stuff. So while we are in Click, we can also input project details, and clients do get access to those to keep their own inputs as well. Now I'm going to give you a behind the scenes of how things looks like and how to set up this. So definitely things have to be accessed from projects. You have to go in and input a user detail, emails particularly, and you have to associate that with the company name and give access. And from there on, customers will be able to access this as an external collaborator and give their own inputs, their own perspective, and this way that allows collaboration to be multifaceted, right? It allows us to work as a team, be more aligned, be more transparent. Like what I said, open up communication, and not just within the organization, but also beyond. Okay. So we are also dealing with supporting documents here, day in, day out. That could be blueprints from architects. That could be marketing tools. It could be legal documents, and it can be a big headache, especially when it gets too overwhelming, when you have all these different tasks power up and you want to make that search really quickly, but you can't. So we have a tool we call Zoho Work Drive here. As you can tell, we are parking all these general documentations in these Work Drive formats, in files and folders. We have a search mechanism at the right, on the top right, where you can put in your filters such as the exact file name. Then you can combine filters actually. Maybe you have a specific file name titled a certain way, is created by a certain someone, is in a certain format. Those are the types of combination that you can put together to get you the exact file and specific file that you need at the end of the day. So speaking about simplifying search, we have a new feature called Work Drive Data Template, and essentially what that is creating your own search identifier. You are creating metadata here and associating that with the data, so it makes your search more simplified. Now, with the example that we've given here, we've taken a single line text field. So we're going to custom the field with some custom properties. The nature of the field itself is single line text, so generally all the inputs and value that you put in here has to be registered as a single line text. So any other forms, like if you put numerics, it's probably not going to pick up. So you can even put tooltips here and give this field a specific description. So it's going to prompt the users and let them know what to actually put in. So there's several custom fields that we've picked. We've created custom properties as well. So examples are like multiple choice questions or selections that you can do in terms of years of business and whether someone at Zoho has spoken to any of the vendor. So generally, these are things that you can do. So once we've set it up in the background, you have to select a file. You have to give very specific inputs to associate a certain data or maybe certain information with that file itself. Once done, you hit associate, and there you go. Things are done. So we're going to do a search by template here. The template that we built early on is called Builder's Contract. So we're going to go ahead with that and inputs the several values that we have here. This is an operator that we can choose. It's either and or. In this case, it requires two criteria like this to actually meet and match the search results, right? So this, again, is how you can simplify your search. And if there's a certain way you want your search to be, that's how you can customize that with data template. So purchase agreement is also another thing, right? We talk about legal documents to actually complete the buying process. Again, where else better to look at this than the CRM? Okay, so we have information in the CRM. We're going to look at all these different details of the customers, and we want to combine documentations with these details so that we can personalize the documentation. And this is the mail merge process. We have several templates that were built into the CRM by Zoho Writer itself. We're going to go ahead and click merge here, and that should show us the documentation. So again, this is built using Writer. Now, these are all merge fields and merge text. Essentially, this looks up the accounts module in the CRM. It's going to bring the different fields value from the CRM and move that into the document to personalize it. We can even input signature fields as well, because we want to get signatures from two signers. Choose the input, or rather the output, and merge the document. And then you can simply hit send and send it for sign collection or so. Okay, so like any other documentation process, you probably need to input a personalized message to let them know what's the expected action. So once that's done, you hit send, and that creation process is powered by Zoho Writer. Now, when you're sending this for sign collection or signature, this is powered by Zoho Sign. Okay, so you get to track, what was once invisible is now actually more visible, right? So you actually get to see the progress of the documentation. Has it been signed? Has it been sent for sign? At every document at the top, there is a legitimate job ID or document ID. So it makes this even more legal, even more legitimate. So once you're done with the process, you get two documents. Number one, documents like a certificate for signing, completion of sign, and the actual signed document itself. Okay, it's going to sit in your email, but rather than you having to download that and upload that into Desk, and then having to re-upload that into your work drive and reorganize that, so why go through that hassle? Now everything can be sort of streamlined and uploaded at this very given point of time using, again, the plugin that you see on the right, right into Zoho Work Drive. So this is the completed document, heavily personalized, of course. We've got these two signed signatures. These are important details that you want to have. These are important backup documents that you want to have to show that the sign collection has been performed, has been successful, if you will. These are actually the black and white. So now you have this file that you uploaded, this completed signed document in Work Drive. You also want to be able to upload that into the CRM. So rather than you uploading that as a file, as a separate file, PDF file, if you will, everything now sits in Work Drive. You're able to actually extract that and put it right into the CRM. Now, external collaboration is also one of the things that we want to look at. We're talking about architect's design. So basically, we're talking about blueprints here. Okay, we are connecting with external collaborators. We're putting together different documents. And here is the blueprint. Now, obviously, we have spotted something that is wrong with this. Okay, this particular segment, there is something wrong. We want to get it fixed. And with these new features in Work Drive, we now get to annotate on PDF, right? So basically what that means is essentially you can point out in specifics where what are the areas that went wrong and what are the areas that need change. You can get collaboration and communication going on that. So to get this fixed, we're going to use another new feature called external file collection. So you are essentially creating a unique file drop link where you send it to the architect in this case. He's going to drop the new file, rectified file into it. And again, this is going to help you overcome the process of you having to constantly reorganize your files and folders. And, it skips the process altogether. Your contractors or your external collaborators, like your architects, get to import the file right within that link itself. So you know where to actually look for such document. Okay, to do so, simply, set up a copy link, look at the types of different information and details that you want to collect, okay, and click send. So once done, there you go. This is a successful upload, okay? So I think we should ask ourselves this question: work the way we know it, has it changed? Now, surely to some it's a no-brainer. Work has changed, definitely. The more the work has changed, the way we work has changed, the idea of work has changed. And it's really very much these days about finding that, the balance equation, right? Believe it or not, a lot of these hirings are still happening remotely. And when we do so, right, a lot of these remote hired staff that sits in other geographies do not get as much connections as those sitting in HQ. and there's lesser spontaneous discussion, there's lesser pantry moments, and they become a disconnect. So I'm going to throw you a new scenario here. So using, of course, the same use case, right? When a new talent joins the company, while the phase destination project is ongoing, how do we then integrate them into the culture and get them to expedite their learning process? Of course, in Click, you can create different channels and company-wide sort of channels, and perhaps organization level groups and channels where you can look up past conversations and past collaborations that have taken place, announcements, to really get ourselves in sync with what's going on within the company and the types of major projects that comes in. Beyond that is also Zoho Connect, which is a social intranet tool. So you probably don't just want to run announcements and forums and group discussions or even polls here, but also to input manuals, right? It could be things like your HR policies, your legal documentation. It could be things like your marketing best practices. So generally things that will help, again, expedite the process of having new joinees familiarize themselves with their work and the way you do work and the way you do things at the company. You can do it by uploading manuals. Town hall moments important, again, is to get the invisible items and maybe some blind spots out of the way. But you can have higher management sit down and connect with ground staff and communicate. So these are avenues to actually stay connected, even with group discussion as well. Again, this is like social media. You get to like, share, repost, even comment, can follow the post itself to get more real-time updates, which you will of course get updated through the bell icon here. And as we said, work again doesn't have to always be so somber and all too dull, right? You want to have yourself build different interest groups. Again, if you have book reading clubs, if you have cycling fanatics, that's where you want to get something started to involve everyone, right? Again, as much as we are doing like formal projects, we want to get some lighthearted conversation going as well. So in a nutshell, I've spoken quite a fair bit about all these different workplace tools. You've looked at communication tools, you've looked at different productivity tools and how it works in tandem side by side and alongside with other Zoho tools as well. So I'm going to just sort of pitch in real quick that we have migration process available. It's 24/7 availability. We have teams to help with precise replication process from your legacy software or system. So hit us up if you are interested in that. And we're highly rated by users and experts as well. So go to the App Store, go to your Play Store, take a look at what people are saying about our brand. And we are highly and strictly, compliant to universal standard, in terms of privacy and security standards and practices. So we're hyper compliant as well. So if you're working in the healthcare industry, perhaps this is also one of the things that you want to look at. All right. So do contact us. If workplace is something that you're looking out for, I'll encourage you to reach out to us at apac-info@zohocorp.com. Go to our LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and leave a like or possibly even follow us. Now, newsletter is also something that you want to look at if you're looking at all things Zoho, right? Things like your new product updates, new feature rollout, brand corporate news. This is where essentially all these important informations are parked under. So go to our APAC newsletter, subscribe for those, and become a Zoho expert, become a Zoho fanboy like myself. Okay, so thank you for your time. I'm going to open the ground for questions.